Okay. Zephaniah. The word of the Lord that came to Zephaniah, son of Cushi, son of Gedaliah, son of Amariah, son of Hezekiah, during the reign of Josiah, son of Amon, king of Judah. Now, he doesn't explicitly identify this Hezekiah as the king Hezekiah. But there really isn't any reason why he would trace his ancestry that far back if it isn't Hezekiah, if it isn't that Hezekiah. Now, this would seem to indicate that Zephaniah himself was a fairly young person at the time that he gives his prophecy. Josiah is only Hezekiah's grandson. Wait, hang on, I got that wrong. Josiah would be the son of Amon, the son of Manasseh, son of Hezekiah. So Hezekiah, Manasseh, Amon, Josiah. And this guy would also be in that same generation. Hezekiah, Amariah, Gedaliah. Actually, he's a generation removed. He's one extra generation beyond. However you call it, whatever great he is, like he is in the generation after Josiah even. So he may have even been, so let me try it this way. You have Hezekiah, Manasseh, Amon, Josiah. And then you have, assuming it's the same Hezekiah, which I'm assuming it is, you have Hezekiah, Amariah, Gedaliah, Cushi, and then Zephaniah. So he's the fifth generation after Hezekiah, whereas Josiah is only the fourth. Now, Manasseh would have been probably Hezekiah's youngest son. Obviously not his only son, because he had another one apparently. Remember we read about that 15-year extension he got? So he would have had apparently older sons in addition to Manasseh, although Manasseh was the one who became king. But Zephaniah would be probably a young man at this point in time. It just doesn't, he's actually, again, in a generation even after Josiah would be. And so he couldn't be that old at the point that he is giving his prophecy. I will sweep away everything from the face of the earth, declares the Lord. I will sweep away both men and animals. I will sweep away the birds of the air and the fish of the sea. That's flood imagery now we're talking about. That's kind of what he said back in Genesis 6. Let's take a look here. Genesis 6, verse 7. I will wipe mankind whom I have created from the face of the earth, men and animals, and creatures that move along the ground, and birds of the air, for I am grieved that I have made them. So now he's saying he's going to do that again. He's even saying he's going to wipe out the fish of the sea this time. Now obviously he didn't wipe out all of Earth back in those days, 620 BC or whatever. So this is hyperbole. This is figurative language. But the point that is being made is that God is displeased. As he was displeased in the days of the flood, he is displeased again and is going to wipe away those who displease him. Just because he gives us choice, and he does, he gives us the freedom to choose not to do what he wants us to do, or to do what he doesn't want us to do. But that does not mean he gives us freedom from consequences of that choice. God never at any point gave us freedom of consequences for going against him. In fact, he said from the very beginning, in the day you eat of the tree that I told you not to eat from, you shall die. You are guaranteed to die. You are doomed to die. So he promised from the very beginning there would be consequences for going against. So even though he allowed us to go against his will, he never promised that he would not bring about consequences for doing so. So anyway, I will sweep away everything from the face of the earth, declares the Lord. I will sweep away both men and animals. I will sweep away the birds of the air and the fish of the sea. The wicked will have only heaps of rubble when I cut off man from the face of the earth, declares the Lord. I will stretch out my hand, so the wicked are the ones who are going to be judged here, he's talking about. So he's just like in the days of Noah. Those who find favor with God are going to have rest and salvation in him. Even if they die, which Isaiah said at the end of his book, Isaiah 57, verse 1 to 3, he said that sometimes the righteous perish because they're being spared future judgment. That happens to Josiah. Josiah was promised by Huldah that the destruction is going to come upon the city and the land is not going to happen in his day. Hezekiah received the same promise from Isaiah. It doesn't mean that you're guaranteed not to have a physical death or whatever. That does mean that you're not, when God comes in judgment, even if you're physically affected by it, you can still rest in his comfort and shelter. I will stretch out my hand against Judah and against all who live in Jerusalem. I will cut off from this place every remnant or vestige of Baal, the names of the pagans and the idolatrous priests. So apparently there are still some Baal imagery somewhere in the land. Maybe not much, maybe just a remnant or a vestige, but apparently there were still some, and he's going to cut it all off. He doesn't even want there to be some of it left. Those who bow down on the roofs to worship the starry hosts, those who bow down and swear by the Lord, but also swear by Molech. That is Milcom or whoever, an Ammonite god or some other god that is not, you can't do that. You can't do both Jehovah and Molech. Those who turn back from following the Lord, and neither seek the Lord nor inquire of him. Be silent before the sovereign Lord, for the day of the Lord is near. Now, we've already read about the day. We know what that is. We've been reading about that since Joel. The Lord has prepared a sacrifice. He has consecrated those he has invited. Remember how back when the Israelites would wage holy war on nations, and they were not to take any of the plunder for themselves, they were to offer it all up to God? You can be set apart for consecration, set apart to be made holy for a special use for God, but you can also be set apart for destruction. In this case, he's setting apart his own people for destruction. On the day, and he's using the consecration and sacrifice imagery to make the point that he set these people apart, who should be consecrated and holy and set apart for him. He's actually setting them apart for destruction now. On the day of the Lord's sacrifice, I will punish the princes and the king's sons. So Josiah has wicked sons that need to be punished. And all those clad in foreign clothes, basically meaning that they're adopting the practices of the nations around them. They're even dressing like them now. On that day I will punish all who avoid stepping on the threshold, who fill the temple of their gods with violence and deceit. Now, I don't know what the stepping on the threshold means exactly. It appears to be referring to something that the Philistines did back in the days of Samuel. Let's read this. We read about this when we read Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 1. When chapter 5, 1 Samuel chapter 5, when the Philistines take the ark of God, they capture the ark, they take it to their temple of their god Dagon, and they put it there next to Dagon, their statue of Dagon. And the next morning when they come, this is 1 Samuel 5 at the beginning of the chapter, they see that he had fallen down. God had knocked the statue over and broken his head and hands and lying them on the threshold. And in verse 5 it says, that is why to this day, neither the priests of Dagon nor any others who enter Dagon's temple or at Ashdod step on the threshold. So that seems to be what this is referring to. Some pagan practice that goes back to the days of the Philistines about not making a show of not stepping on the threshold. And people of Judah are doing that apparently in their pagan practices. On that day, declares the Lord, a cry will go up from the fish gate, wailing from the new court. These would just be districts in Jerusalem. And a loud crash from the hills. Wail, you who live in the market district. All your merchants will be wiped out. All who trade with silver will be ruined. At that time, now he's mentioned this sort of judgment context before, and we read about that a lot, for example, in Isaiah, about Babylon and places like that. But here we're talking about Jerusalem. We haven't even gotten to Jerusalem's punishment yet. Isaiah talked about it happening to Babylon after Babylon conquered Judah, but we haven't even gotten there yet. Now Zephaniah is here talking, this is going to happen here in Judah and Jerusalem first. At that time, I will search Jerusalem with lamps and punish those who are complacent. So he's going to look you up. It's like FBI agents with their flashlights looking at every corner. They're looking for you. They're going to find you. They're going to find wherever you may be hiding. God is going to search for you with lamps if he has to, so he can draw you out of hiding and punish you. Who are like wine left on its dregs. If you think The Lord will do nothing, either good or bad. Their wealth will be plundered, their houses demolished. They will build houses, but will not live in them. They will plant vineyards, but will not drink wine. Now, that's referring to the upcoming destruction of Judah and Jerusalem, which is going to happen 30 or 40 years after Zephaniah speaks. And we already read in Isaiah how he's going to reverse that someday. We read at the end of Isaiah how he starts talking about this great and glorious kingdom that is to come. Isaiah's already happened by this point. Isaiah's already lived. Zephaniah is speaking in the year 620 or so BC, and this is 80 or so years after Isaiah's come and gone. Isaiah was already looking forward to a time when God is going to reverse all this, but Zephaniah's got to deal with the current reality, which is that he's got to do it first. He's got to do it before he can reverse it. In Isaiah 62, he says in verse 8, for example, "The Lord has sworn by his right hand and by his mighty arm, never again will I give your grain as food to your enemies, and never again will foreigners drink the new wine for which you have toiled. But those who harvest it will eat it and praise the Lord. And those who gather the grapes will drink it in the courts of my sanctuary." So that is going to be a reversal of the judgment that Zephaniah here promises. But the judgment itself hasn't even happened yet. So Zephaniah is here to declare this imminent oncoming judgment. Isaiah's already told him he's going to reverse it someday. But in Zephaniah's time, it hasn't even happened yet. The great day of the Lord is near and coming quickly. Listen. The cry on the day of the Lord will be bitter. The shouting of the warrior there. That day will be a day of wrath. A day of distress and anguish. A day of trouble and ruin. A day of darkness and gloom. A day of clouds and blackness. A day of trumpet and battle cry against the fortified cities and against the corner towers. I will bring distress on the people, and they will walk like blind men because they have sinned against the Lord. Their blood will be poured out like dust, and their entrails like filth. Neither their silver nor their gold will be able to save them, so they're not going to be able to buy off the enemies. The people who come there to plunder them are not going to be persuaded to leave them alone with a payoff on the day of the Lord's wrath. In the fire of his jealousy, the whole world will be consumed, for he will make a sudden end of all who live on the earth. Gather together, O shameful nation, before the appointed time arrives, and that day sweeps on like chaff, before the fierce anger of the Lord comes upon you, before the day of the Lord's wrath comes upon you. Seek the Lord, all you humble of the land, you who do what he commands. Seek righteousness, seek humility. Perhaps you'll be sheltered on the day of the Lord's anger. That's pretty much what Joel said. We've identified Joel as having lived about 830 or so BC, 200 years ago. And he was the first one who came along and really started talking about the day of the Lord. And he used the context of a recent locust invasion to help make the point of what the day of the Lord is going to be like. And he said, repent. Okay, it's like, perhaps God will have mercy on you. Zephaniah is repeating that same message now, 200 years later. Seek righteousness, seek humility. Perhaps you'll be sheltered on the day of the Lord's anger. Gaza will be abandoned, and Ashkelon left in ruins. At midday, Ashdod will be emptied, and Ekron uprooted. These are all the Philistine cities. Now there are puns here in the Hebrew language that don't carry over in English. These cities are being mentioned not just totally at random, but partially because their names fit into Hebrew wordplay that's being used here. That doesn't connect in English at all. These are all the Philistine cities. Now there was an invasion of Philistia by a group of people called the Scythians around this time. So he could be using that as like as a forerunner, or as Just like Joel used the image of a recent locust plague, and Amos used an earthquake to help make his point that his prophecies would come true like that earthquake did. He may be using this invasion of Philistia by another nation as a reference point to make his greater point of upcoming judgment on Judah and Jerusalem. Or it could just be simple Hebrew wordplay. I'm not really sure. Woe to you who live by the sea, O Kerethite people! The word of the Lord is against you, O Canaan, land of the Philistines. I will destroy you, and none will be left. The land by the sea, where the Kerethites dwell, will be a place for shepherds and sheep pens. Excuse me, wow. It will belong to the remnant of the house of Judah. There they will find pasture. In the evening they will lie down in the houses of Ashkelon. The Lord will care for them, and he will restore their fortune. So Zephaniah is talking about a remnant too. We hear a lot about this remnant in Isaiah. And Zephaniah is also mentioning the remnant. He's not going into detail about it. My guess is that Zephaniah is assuming we've already read Isaiah and know the message that Isaiah left us 60 or 70 years ago whenever he died. And he is using that to help base his own prophecy, and is not elaborating on it because Isaiah already has. But the remnant of Jacob is going to survive and is going to live in these cities of their enemies someday. I have heard the insults of Moab and the taunts of the Ammonites, those people live to the east of Israel. Philistia is on the Mediterranean coast, on Israel's west, and Moab and Ammon are the countries east of Israel. So I have heard the insults of Moab and the taunts of the Ammonites, who insulted my people and made threats against their land. They've always done that. They've been doing that since the beginning. Therefore, as surely as I live, declares the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, surely Moab will become like Sidon, the Ammonites like Gomorrah, like Sodom. What did I say? Sodom. And the Ammonites like Gomorrah, a place of weeds and salt pits, a wasteland forever. The remnant of my people, there's that remnant idea coming in again. The remnant of my people will plunder them. The survivors of my nation will inherit their land. This is what they will get in return for their pride, for insulting and mocking the people of the Lord Almighty. The Lord will be awesome to them when he destroys all the gods of their land. The nations on every shore will worship him, every one in its own land. So God will be proven right, and these nations who bow to other gods will be proven wrong. Whether it's Moab, Ammon, Philistia, Cush, Assyria, Edom, any other of these nations Israel dealt with back in those days, or anything we dealt with in the years since then, God will be proven right, and those who take their stand against him will be proven wrong. That has never not been true. Throughout all of history, from Bible times even to this day, we still see that play out in front of us. You too, O Cushites, will be slain by my sword. Cush was a nation south of Egypt that we would now today call Ethiopia. So we're going west of Israel, Philistia, on the western coast, east of Israel, Moab and Ammon, south, far south of Egypt is Cush, and now north to Assyria. So I have a judgment word against Assyria here. So everywhere around Israel. He will stretch out his hand against the north, so south, west, east, south, and north. He will stretch out his hand against the north and destroy Assyria, leaving Nineveh utterly desolate and dry as the desert. We'll read about this more in Nahum in just a bit here. Flocks and herds will lie down there, creatures of every kind. The desert owl and the screech owl will roost on her columns. Their calls will echo through the windows, rumble will be in the doorways, the beams of cedar will be exposed. This is the carefree city that lived in safety. She said to herself, I am, and there is none besides me. What a ruin she has become, a lair for wild beasts. All who pass by her scoff and shake their fists. Nahum will end his book by saying, who has not felt your endless cruelty, Assyria? Everyone's going to be happy when Assyria falls. No one is going to be lamenting the end of Assyria. 200 years earlier, when Jonah went there to preach, and he ended his book confronting God, or God confronted him about his lack of concern for the Ninevites, God said, "Shall I not care about that great city?" That's what God's attitude toward that city had been in 800 or so BC when Jonah was there. But now it is a carefree city, a proud city, a queenly city, and it's going to have to become a ruined city. At the time, God was seeking to try to save the city, and maybe they did repent for a generation or so. But now it is time for Nineveh to be judged. And we'll read about that in Nahum in just a bit. But that's not the point of Zephaniah's message. He includes that. He includes that message against Assyria, against Cush, against Moab and Ammon, and against Philistia. But his real point is against Jerusalem, which we're going to read about here in chapter 3. Woe to the city of oppressors, rebellious and defiled. This is Jerusalem he's talking about here, by the way. She obeys. So he's not talking about Nineveh any longer. He's not talking about the cities of the Moabites or the Ammonites, the Cushites or the Philistines. He's talking about the city that should be God's city. Woe to the city of oppressors, rebellious and defiled. She obeys no one. She accepts no correction. She does not trust in the Lord. She does not draw near to her God. So we know this is Jerusalem because her God is supposed to be Jerusalem. This is Israel's God. And this is supposed to be her God, and she is not drawing near to her God. Her officials are roaring lions. Her rulers are evening wolves who leave nothing for the morning. They scavenge it all, they eat it all at night, they don't have anything to eat in the morning. Her prophets are arrogant. They are treacherous men. Her priests profane the sanctuary and do violence to the law. The Lord within her is righteous and does no wrong. Morning by morning he dispenses his justice, and every new day he does not fall or fail. Yet the unrighteous know no shame. This is not God's fault. He has been there morning by morning, every new day. He does not fail. He dispenses justice. But the priests and the prophets and the leaders and the people have all gone astray. I have cut off nations. Their strongholds are demolished. I have left their streets deserted, with no one passing through. Their cities are destroyed, and no one will be left, no one at all. I said to the city, surely... Now, he's going to do this with the Babylonians. Zephaniah does not identify how he's going to do this, how God is going to do this, but we're going to find out it's going to be through the Babylonians. And not the Assyrians, who are going to face their own judgment even before Jerusalem does. I said to the city, surely you will fear me and accept correction. Then her dwelling would not be cut off, nor all my punishments come upon her. But they were still eager to act corruptly in all they did. Ever had someone that just continues to make mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake, deliberately so, intentionally doing the wrong thing and making the wrong choice every time, and you think to yourself, why do you keep doing this? Why do you continue to do this? Have you ever sat down and considered that maybe you are the common denominator in all these situations? That's what these people are doing. Consistently, every time when they have a choice in front of them, they always pick the wrong one. Therefore, wait for me, declares the Lord, for the day I will stand up to testify. So you just wait and see what's going to happen. I have decided to assemble the nations, to gather the kingdoms, and to pour out my wrath on them, my fierce anger. The whole world will be consumed by the fire of my jealous anger. He's going to do this through the Babylonians. Those are going to be his agents to do this through. We haven't identified them yet, though, as such, but that will be the human agents through which he accomplishes these purposes. Then will I purify the lips of the peoples, that all of them may call on the name of the Lord, and serve him shoulder to shoulder. So they're going to have one mouth, one voice, one act, one work. And both their words and their actions, they will call upon and serve the name of the Lord and serve him. From beyond the rivers of Cush, that's south, that's in Ethiopia, my worshippers, my scattered people, will bring me offerings. On that day you will not be put to shame for all the wrongs you have done to me, because I will remove from this city those who rejoice in their pride. Never again will you be haughty on my holy hill. But I will leave within you the meek and humble, I be the remnant. I'm going to remove all the dross. I'm going to remove all the impurities. But I'm going to leave behind a remnant that will do my purposes, who will be my servants, who trust in the name of the Lord. The remnant of Israel will do no wrong. They will speak no lies, nor will deceit be found in their mouths. They will eat and lie down, and no one will make them afraid. So there's going to be destruction, there's going to be disaster. These people have not accepted correction, they have not turned from their wicked ways. He's going to wipe them out, he's going to remove all the impurities, and the remnant he leaves behind, the remnant he plants there and grows up again afterwards, will do his will. They will be his servants. Isaiah talks about that. We pretty much just got the entire message of Isaiah in like 4 verses right there here in Zephaniah. Where Isaiah spent 66 chapters talking about, Zephaniah summed up in about half a chapter. Sing, O daughter of Zion. Shout aloud, O Israel. Be glad and rejoice with all your heart, O daughter of Jerusalem. The Lord has taken away your punishment. He has turned back your enemy. The Lord, the King of Israel, is with you. Never again will you fear any harm. On that day they will say to Jerusalem, do not fear, O Zion. Do not let your hands hang limp. The Lord your God is with you. He is mighty to save. He will take great delight in you. He will quiet you with his love. He will rejoice over you with singing. I like to have God say that about me, huh? Wouldn't that be comforting to have God say that to you and about you? The sorrows for the appointed feasts I will remove from you. They are a burden and a reproach to you. At that time I will deal with all who oppressed you. I will rescue the lame and gather those who have been scattered. I will give them praise and honor in every land where they were put to shame. Again, Isaiah talks about that in much greater detail. At that time I will gather you. At that time I will bring you home. I will give you honor and praise among all the peoples of the earth, when I restore your fortunes before your very eyes, says the Lord. So Zephaniah essentially repeats the same message that Isaiah had, in much condensed form, of course, 3 chapters instead of 66. But he, I think, is emphasizing this to reiterate to the people of Josiah's day that this judgment is still going to happen. When Isaiah spoke about these things, he talked about it as if they had already happened, but they hadn't happened yet. And they still hadn't happened in Zephaniah's day, but they're going to. But there is going to be a deliverance that occurs even after that. This judgment they're going to experience is really a purification process necessary to remove their impurities. They made it necessary by not accepting correction to begin with. For hundreds of years, God has been trying to correct them of their sinful ways and their bad attitudes and their bad behaviors. And for hundreds of years, they have said, no, we're not going to do it. We're going to keep doing what we want to do. So now God is going to have to forcibly scrub them clean of these impurities. And it's not going to be a pleasant process. The act of doing so is going to be very painful and very unpleasant. The result will ultimately be for their benefit. But there's going to be a lot of pain and suffering that goes through having to get there. But there is going to be something good to come out of it someday. There will be a remnant, there will be survivors, and those survivors will be spiritually superior to generations that went into captivity. And from them, of course, we'll have the Messiah, and Messiah will bring the salvation to all the earth, which is what Isaiah talks about. And Zephaniah essentially says the same thing in very heavily condensed fashion.